Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Brett. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Today we're going to be talking about the University of Georgia versus Oregon in the upcoming opener. 1 month from today, we're going to get into some of the players, some of the field conditions, what I think is going to balance and unbalance the game, and we're going to get into it right after this. All right, everyone. So without further ado, if you don't know, you should know by now that Georgia is going to be opening the season with a game here in Atlanta on a neutral site. Apparently, is what they're calling it because it's not played on a college university. So Georgia is going to be playing against Oregon in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is a dome. They can open and close that dome depending on the conditions outside and what they want the field conditions to be like. There has been a lot of hype and talk from the Oregon side as well as the Georgia side about who's going to win this game. And as much as I like to talk smack, we'll say, I also like to kind of have some facts to go along with it. So one of those things that I find to be stunning is the clear disregard for talent that's on the field or overhyping of talent that's on the field. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys right up front, I think this is going to be a very, very tough game for Oregon. The reason I say that is when you look at the X's and O's, it becomes very clear very quickly that this is not an even matchup. It's not close. Now, there are a lot of fans out there, and rightfully so, that point to the fact that Georgia did lose at least 15 players to the NFL. Georgia also had some transfers away from that team. Georgia does have a lot of younger players on this team, but Georgia has proved that those younger players can be extreme playmakers. So I want to go ahead and kind of jump into some of the numbers here, what I saw. Let's go ahead and pull up the stats here real quick. All right, so first off, let's look at the Oregon schedule last year. As you guys can see, they had a pretty good run initially coming out of the gate. They went pretty strong. They went 4-0, and they beat an Ohio State team by 1 touchdown. Then we get down to Stanford. They lose to Stanford in overtime. Then they run off 5 straight games to undefeated teams, and then they play Utah, number 23 ranked Utah. And at this point, they got absolutely destroyed. 38-7. It was not close. The most rushing yards anybody had was Cardell at 35. Wasn't good. So the next week they follow that up when they play Oregon State. They beat Oregon State 38-29. Close game. Shouldn't have been close. This is an unranked team and an Oregon team that they would have you believe is very good. Then they turned around and they played again, number 17 ranked Utah, and they lost that game again. Instead of 38-7, they did a little better this time, 38-10. And then they went out and they played Oklahoma, number 16 ranked Oklahoma, and they lost 47-32. So Brown had a really good game. He threw for a little over 300 yards in that game, but man, this was just, I mean, this is a 4-loss season. This is a 10-4 team. You lost your final game of the season. You lost to all 3 ranked teams you played at the end of the season in a row, so to speak. I mean, the only ranked team you beat was earlier in the season, was the second week of the season, was Ohio State. I still feel like that Ohio State team was kind of getting their wheels under them and maybe got a little bit of shock and awe there. But by the end of the season, you can just see that Oregon was not firing on all cylinders. And I'm going to get a bunch of hate from the Oregon fans, guys. I'm just pointing out the stats, pointing out the facts. You can get mad if you want to. I can't help you with the stats. All I can do is tell you what I see. So now what I do want to jump over and say is that there's been some controversy at the quarterback position, or whether or not that who's going to be the quarterback, right? So Bo Nix, who transferred from Auburn over to Oregon, Anthony Brown got drafted. He went to the NFL, so he's gone. The only other quarterbacks you have is Ty Thompson, unless I'm missing somebody. You got Ty Thompson, who has a total of 7 completions. You have Jay Butterfield, who has a total of 2 completions, for a grand total of 109 yards between both of those quarterbacks. So they ring in Bo Nix, who most likely is going to be the starting quarterback. Now, here's the problem with Bo Nix. Georgia's played him 3 times. The only time he beat Georgia was the very first time. The last 2 times he played him, he's not done very well. He's lost both of those games. Looking at Bo Nix as a quarterback last year during the regular season, he lost 4 games. And those 4 games he lost to was Mississippi State, which was an unranked team, a pretty good Texas A&M team. They did beat Ole Miss. They did beat Arkansas. They lost to Georgia 34-10. And they also lost to Penn State 28-20. And the rest of the teams were pretty much nobodies. What I will point out, though, is that in these games where they played what I would consider a quality defense, he struggled. Now, he did good in the Arkansas game, but man, he's only had 3 games where his 4 games, if you're counting Akron, where he had a completion percentage over 57%. You heard that correctly. He has a QBR of 70. This is not an elite quarterback. Bo Nix was hyped as being an elite quarterback, and he just hasn't panned out to be so. All season, he had a total of 11 touchdowns. All season. He was sacked 13 times. So that's not very good either. And 3 interceptions to go along with those 11 touchdowns. This is not an elite quarterback. And he played in all these games. He threw for almost 2,300 yards. But for 2,300 yards, he only come up with 11 touchdowns. That's not going to cut it against an SEC defense of any quality. So now I'm going to jump over and I'm going to look at the players that Oregon has that are gone now. So the quarterback situation is let's just say a point of concern. Now let's jump down to the rushing game. Travis Dye, their number 1 running back, he transferred to USC. He's now a Trojan, so he's no longer a factor. Anthony Brown, who is the 2nd leading rusher on the team, he's also gone. He went to the NFL. Byron Cardell is there now, and he was their 3rd running back. He had a total of 417 yards. That's your best guy. So you went from having basically a 1,300-yard rusher to a guy who's 417 yards. He only had 61 carries, which is about 5 a game. That's not anything substantial that I would be overly excited about. And he had 3 touchdowns all season. So missing some quality there at the rushing position. Now let's drop down to the receiving core. Number 1 receiver, Devon Williams, who had only 557 yards. He's now gone to the Ravens, so he's gone. Chris Hutchinson is the next in line, which is pretty good quality wide receiver right here in Chris Hutchinson, but comparable to Devon Williams. Not quite as many yards on the average per catch, but almost as many touchdowns with 2. Highly dangerous individual with 2 touchdowns. We have to watch out for that guy for sure. And I believe there's a number of other guys here on this list that are also gone, but the Travis Dye. Let me see here. Travis Dye, yeah, he also went to the USC Trojans. Oh, wait, that's also your running back. So, as you can see, missing a big spot there. Then you got Johnny Johnson III. Johnny Johnson III is now a Houston Texan. So, he's gone. Troy Franklin. Look at Troy Franklin here real quick while that stat pulls up. He's still there. So you've got a receiver with 18 catches and a receiver with 31. So a total of 49 over the whole season. That's like 4 a game. Or combined. That's like 2 catches a game each. Not terribly experienced guys here. This is going to be bad. Let's jump down to the defensive part. Noah Sewell. Believe he's gone. Isn't he gone? Pull that up. No, he's still there. Okay. So he's gonna be what is he gonna be this year? Sophomore, junior? Sophomore, junior. One of the 2. So a little bit there. Verone McKinley. I'm sorry, I don't name these guys. You're looking at Verone McKinley, the 3rd. He's now a safety for the Dolphins, so he's gone. Wow. That was your number 2 tackler, too. Kayvon Thibodeau is one of your big stat guys. He's gone to the New York Giants, so he's gone. You want to talk about being depleted. Ouch. There's a couple other guys here and a couple other guys that are gone, but really nobody of any major scary stats. The whole team had a grand total of 23 sacks all year. That's not good. That's not good. Georgia had 49. Now, granted, Georgia did lose some pieces, but Georgia still got a lot here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Stetson Bennett. Obviously, Georgia's returning quarterback in Stetson Bennett. And Georgia has a quarterback room that is absolutely incredible. Compared to Bo Nix's 11 touchdowns, Stetson Bennett has 29, 2.5 times as many, has a QBR of 86.7, which is third best in all of the SEC. Third best among all quarterbacks, I believe. I think Oklahoma State had a higher QBR rating. Let's see here. Last year, his completion percentage was about 65%, so not great, not terrible, but a quality rating. Including the last team that Georgia beat was Alabama, and they did it on the arm of Stetson Bennett. It was his, I think, 3 completions in a row after committing the quote-unquote fumble. Stetson Bennett takes the team down the field for the go-ahead score there. So looking at what I see here, looking at the schedule from last year, a bunch of no-name teams they played that they lost to, lost almost all of their quality players. They don't have a quarterback. They have almost nothing in the quarterback room. That's concerning. If Bo Nix gets hurt, which is a possibility, they have nobody to back him up. Stetson Bennett gets hurt. Georgia has 2 5-stars and a 4-star waiting in the wings, ready to play. Let's see here. We can get rid of Stetson's stats. Now let's talk about what Georgia did lose. We lost Zamir White. He went to the NFL. James Cook went to the NFL. We still have Kenny McIntosh. Kenny McIntosh at 58 attempts. You got Kendall Milton at 56 attempts. Dejon Edwards at 49 attempts. So you can see that these 3 guys have been splitting these carries equally. They're all quality running backs. Stetson Bennett has 56 attempts. Our quarterback actually averages just as many yards per carry as our running backs do. He's got 4.6. Kendall Milton at 4.7. There is a lot to be said here. Brock Bowers, he can run the ball. Ladd McConkey has run the ball. Karius Jackson has run the ball. Arian Smith is running the ball. And all these players are returning, by the way, not just what I'm naming here. Now, if we look at Georgia's receiving core, Georgia's number 1 receiver was Brock Bowers. He had 56 receptions for 882 yards and a total of 13 touchdowns. So a few, we'll say a few touchdowns there. Jermaine Burton was our second guy. He did end up going to Alabama, which is fine, because if you look at his stats comparative to Ladd McConkey, Jermaine Burton had 26 receptions. Ladd McConkey had 31. Both of them averaged around 15 yards. Ladd averaged 15 yards. Jermaine averaged 19.1. Jermaine Burton was 3 yards away from having 500, and Ladd McConkey was 3 yards away from having 450. Both of them have 5 touchdowns apiece. Adonai Mitchell, 29 receptions, 426 yards. James Cook, which is now in the NFL. Kenny McIntosh, 22 receptions for 242 yards. Karius Jackson, 16 receptions, 194 yards. Darnell Washington, 10 receptions for 154 yards. Arian Smith, which is somebody you guys need to take note of. Arian Smith is probably the fastest player on our team. I believe he runs a 10-second 100-yard dash. Something along those lines. Blazing speed can take the top off of defenses. Resmi Jack Saint's going to be back. John Fitzpatrick, I think he's gone. Georgia does pick up Oscar Delp, and they pick up Eric Gilbert. Eric Gilbert was the highest rated tight end ever recruited, and he's at Georgia now, and Georgia has already shown that they can utilize these guys. Brock Bowers did these numbers as a true freshman. Adonai Mitchell did these numbers as a true freshman. So you really want to be aware of these guys. You really, really want to be aware of these guys. Georgia has tons of weapons, both in the rushing room and in the receiving room. Looking on defense, Georgia does lose a few players. We had Lewis Seen, I believe he went to the NFL. N'Kobe Dean, Nakobe Dean, for those of you who don't know who Nakobe Dean is, Nakobe Dean now plays for the Philadelphia Eagles and was a force to be reckoned with. Channing Tindall, he now plays for the Dolphins. He was a force to be reckoned with. Quay Walker, another force to be reckoned with, but Quay Walker now plays for the Green Bay Packers. So Georgia does lose a lot of things on defense. Nolan Smith, however, is back. So for those of you who don't know much about Nolan Smith, and I'm assuming this is going to be a lot of Oregon fans that are seeing this guy, he's going to step up and fill the role of these other players that you see. Nolan Smith is going to be one of the leaders on the team. He had 4 sacks last year. Say 3.5, but 4. Absolutely phenomenal. Let me pick this guy up here real quick. There's another guy you need to be aware of. His name is Robert Beal. Robert Beal had 6.5 sacks last year. So just between these two guys, that's 10 sacks. So Darian Kendrick, he's gone. Devontae Wyatt, he's gone. So Georgia does lose some things on defense, but Georgia still has plenty of weapons on defense to hold that up. It really only takes 1 or 2 good players on defense to have an elite defense if they're in the right positions and they play well. But Georgia has numerous 5-star talent all over the field. Now, the other guy I do want to point out here is not necessarily a sack specialist, but is certainly legendary at UGA now, is a gentleman by the name of Keely Ringo. You may have heard of this guy. He's the guy who got the interception against the Heisman winner, Bryce Young, in the national championship game that ran it back for a touchdown. That he was also a freshman this year. He's going to be a sophomore, and he's obviously going to be a starter. He's from Tacoma, Washington, so we appreciate you guys up there in the Pacific Northwest sending us such a talented young man. Obviously, he knows where the talent is. Now, you can say this, I'm being one-sided, and that's fine, but I'm trying to help you guys understand that there is so much talent out here on this field. Now, the other guy out there who is an interception machine is a guy by the name of Christopher Smith. Christopher Smith has 23 tackles and 3 interceptions. So all by himself, he's a weapon to be reckoned with. He's going to be a senior this year. He's going to be a leader for this team. So you can expect to see him out there flying around the field. Christopher Smith is extraordinarily fast too, has blazing fast speed. I don't see any of these things on the Oregon side of the ball. Also, we've got a video. I'm going to try and put it in this video if I can. That Oregon posted on Facebook.
I want to get to the top of the mountain. How can we be different? Well, guys, we have to train different. Not the way we talk, it's about what we do.
Wearing socks and weight. Look at these guys over here with a 25-pound plate. They're flexing that they're a 25-pound plate. I got a 25-pound plate. I'm gonna flex. That's how strong we are. 25-pound plates. Those of you who don't know how the math on this works, a 25-pound plate on one side and a 25-pound plate on the other side is obviously 50 pounds. If the bar is 45, that's 95 pounds. That's not even 100 pounds. That's not even 100 pounds. So just so you know, whenever players go to the NFL and they do the bench press, that bar is 225 pounds. It's 2 times and plus what these guys are flexing on what they can show off. So, yeah, would not be bragging on that. Also, when you see these guys running around, it really honestly looks like a Georgia high school team. It is, I'm dumbfounded at where all the confidence is coming from. It just, I just can't understand it. Absolutely cannot understand it. Now let's look at the coaching aspect of it. If you look at the UGA's coaching staff, obviously Kirby Smart, who has won a national championship. He came in second place in the national championship a couple of years. He has had 2 playoff appearances. He has never lost a playoff game. He has a recent division championship. He's beaten Alabama. He's been number one in recruiting multiple times. He's also won national championships at Alabama, so this is old hat for him. Now, he is absolutely talented at what he does. Now, you bring in the fact that Georgia has Will Muschamp, who is an elite defensive mind as well, just like Kirby Smart, and he's been a head coach, and he come back to Georgia, and he helped Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning put together these defenses. If for one moment, gentlemen, that you think that Dan Lanning all of a sudden has Kirby Smart's number, you must be a little bit confused. Kirby Smart taught Dan Lanning probably pretty much everything he knows. The defenses that you saw were not the brilliant strokes of genius of a first-year defensive coordinator. They were the strokes of genius from competent, qualified, and highly experienced defensive minds of Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp. That's just how that's going to go. Oregon does not have the tools on defense that Georgia does or did. And I just don't see how Dan Lanning, with lack of experience of even being a head coach, is going to be able to magically step in there and take over and have this Oregon football team firing on all cylinders well enough to beat the five-star packed roster that Georgia has. I just don't see that happening. Now, let's see. Oregon offensive coordinator. I want to make sure I get this right because Kenny Dillingham, Oregon's new offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham, previously coached at Florida State and Auburn. I wonder why he left there. He has coached high school, Oregon State, Memphis, Auburn for one season, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, Florida State for 2 seasons, and now he's at Oregon. Does anybody want to tell me what Florida State's record was last year? Yeah. So, Kenny Dillingham did not have a rock star performance at Auburn, otherwise he'd still be there. Did not have a rock star performance at Florida State, otherwise he would still be there. And he's going to coach at Oregon. I'm going to give you a guess as to what's about to happen. He's not going to beat Georgia. He's not going to come up with an offensive play scheme that's going to be able to beat Georgia. The defensive coordinator at Alabama couldn't figure out a way to stop Georgia. Don't think that it's going to be any different with Oregon. So I don't see Oregon slowing down Georgia's offense, and I don't see them overwhelming Georgia's defense. I predict this is probably going to be a one-sided game. People can point back to last year's game and say, well, Georgia barely beat Clemson. Georgia, for whatever reason, decided to play with a hurt quarterback, and we still won that game. But at the beginning of the season last year, nobody thought Georgia would have 15 NFL players. And then this year, end of that year, and I would probably say Georgia's going to put a good 6, 7, or 8 in the NFL this year. So that being the case, there's a lot of talented players on the University of Georgia. Not a lot of talent to match on the Oregon side of the ball. When we look at we look at the conditions. So here's another thing I want to look at. I'm going to pull this up just to make sure I got the numbers straight because I don't want to get them wrong. So the average humidity in Oregon in August can be anywhere between 38 and 65. Now let's check September. Anywhere from 45 to 69%. Now let's check Georgia. You're going to be dealing anywhere from 74 to 85% humidity. Some places 88. Coming to Georgia to play football is different. You don't necessarily have to worry about the heat difference. It will be a little bit warmer here, but it's the humidity. You're breathing water. It's not the same. And unless you are highly conditioned to working in the heat and working with that water, because your body doesn't sweat the same way, it's going to be tough. They're not going to have the dome closed. They're not going to close the dome for this game. The dome is going to be open. It's going to be open. And when that happens, that humidity is going to come in, and it's going to be a problem. I don't foresee them being used to that. You're going to see Oregon players on the sidelines with oxygen masks on before halftime. It's going to be tough. I don't think Oregon is as deep or as talented or as experienced as Georgia and its coaching staff. This is going to be a very one-sided game. Now, before you start fussing at me saying, hey, you're a Georgia homer, you're completely being one-sided about this. You're not taking into account X, Y, and Z. It's just not, this is not fair. Okay. Well, apparently not only does ESPN agree with me, Vegas agrees with me. And whenever Vegas is giving Georgia a 17.5 point favorite, that's huge. That's 2.5 scores. That means if you score 10 points, they expect Georgia to score 28. That's a blowout. I think Georgia could probably get closer to the 35 mark and probably hold Oregon to 10 or 14 points, depending on what happens with Bo Nix. If he can get any kind of chemistry with his team, in which I don't know that they've even named him as a starter as of yet. You lost 3 of your last 5 games. 3 of your last 5 you've lost. It's not good. And that was with an established quarterback. Georgia's predicted to win this game at a 92.5 or 91.5%. They give Oregon an 8.5% to win this game, which is basically them saying that Georgia has got to fall off a cliff. Half the team has to not show up, and Georgia would probably still win. So, I'm going to do another video as we get closer to the end of the season, but leave your comments down below, like and subscribe. And by the way, if you're an Oregon fan and you want to jump down in the comment sections, don't disappear after the game. I can't. And I would love to get you guys' feedback. So really appreciate you guys. If you made it this far, hit like, hit thumbs up, share, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and by the way, yeah, that's great. Please subscribe. Yeah. So anything, just leave it down below. We'll be glad to discuss it with you guys. Really look forward to hearing from you. And as always, have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs. Oh, welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Brig Dog Brett. Thanks so much for Brig Dog Brett. Nice. That's too bright. Turn that down. Jeez. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Brett. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today, we're going to be talking about the University of Georgia versus the University of Oregon. We're going to talk into some of the talking points. We're going to start over.